Hi, this is Jen Mitchell Love from Solace Divorce Mediation, and this video is focused on your children, which I know from being a family law attorney for 19 years and for the last 10 years being out of the court space as a litigation attorney for 9 years and the last 10 being in the mediation space. I know that kids having children and going through a divorce is one of the scariest things for people going through a divorce. And I get it. I understand it. Um, I know that there have been generations of people before us right now who have used the family law court system to get a divorce and totally relinquish their ability to speak their truth and their ability to make decisions, giving that away to attorneys, giving that away to a judge. And also in that space, children are really harmed in that space. And I don't mean that in a sense of, the kids go to court and they're physically assaulted. I mean it from, a way that we all know as parents. Kids oftentimes, when I was litigation attorney for the first 9 years of my career, never did I start a case, with a client. Never did it start with my client saying, you know what, I really want to get my kids involved in this and I want to screw them up and I want to really make it hard for them. Of course, that's never the way that it starts. However, in the courtroom litigation setting, things can get out of control really quickly, and oftentimes kids are used as pawns, as tools to hurt the other person. And yeah, it's really heartbreaking. It's really heartbreaking being a former litigation attorney. It was very, very hard to see that and feel that. And also in the courtroom space, as the litigation attorney, it wasn't my space. I'm not a guardian ad litem, which is the attorney for the children. Um, and yeah, it's a really scary space. And it's a really uncomfortable space for everybody. And so this video is focused specifically on your beautiful kids and giving you some guidance, helping, share different ways that you can look at things, different ways you can share things with your kids to make things feel better. At Solace Divorce Mediation, which is my legal practice that was created, 14 years ago is when the journey really started. But the Solace journey, very much for the past 11 years, has been really focused on this space. And the reason that Solace was created is because I had three kids in 39 months, the first in 2014, and then um, 20 I'm sorry, the first in 2011 and then 2012, 2014. And yeah, when my kids came into my life, they're the ones that made me realize that my role as a litigation attorney and acting as a zealous advocate for one person in divorce was really destroying kids and people and parents and family, and the ripple effect of that work to the world was not what I wanted to do with my life, and absolutely not what I wanted to show my children I do with my life. And so from there, Solace was birthed. And with that birthing of Solace came the anatomy of Solace, and the heart of Solace is children, because I do not want one additional child anywhere to be negatively impacted by divorce, because they don't need to be. And I share that from a space of love, but I also share that from a space of authority, in that, I went through my own divorce and I have three children. We have three children, and our kids are not screwed up from the divorce. And, I think when we can shift the way we're looking at relationship, when we can shift the way we're looking at family, when we can shift the way we're looking at parenting, that is what really opens space for us to focus on children and making sure that they are not harmed. Instead, focusing mindfulness and intentionality on empowering our children. And one of the most empowering parts of divorce for children is the authenticity of it. Divorce always starts with one person speaking their truth and being in their authentic expression and version of self to say this relationship in the capacity of marriage is no longer serving me, and I feel we need to shift into another space. That's like where divorce starts. And when the other person receives that information, and then when the couple chooses to mediate their divorce as opposed to litigate, because again, as a former litigation attorney in that system for 9 years, I intimately understand and see how children are harmed in that system. It is completely it is disempowering. It is breeding victims in the family. It is making everything really, really tight when it doesn't need to be so tight. And so this video and these ways of being, this way of feeling, this way of seeing, this way of experiencing divorce with our children, I feel can be had, that experience can be had in the mediation setting. I don't know how it can be experienced in the courtroom setting. And that is only because each person has an attorney. That attorney is a zealous advocate for their client. And when I was litigation attorney, 9 times out of 10, my opposing counsel would coach their client and say, don't talk to your spouse. So I don't know how this is possible in court. I'm not saying it, that never say never, right? It could possibly happen. But I'm saying from a space of authority, we can absolutely be mindful when it comes to our children and how they experience divorce when we are in the mediation space, and specifically when we are in Solace, because Solace has a different approach to divorce, a different approach to co-parenting, a different approach to family, where we recognize, that authenticity, speaking our truth, is such a powerful force, and it's such a gift. And so that's one way that your children can be empowered through your divorce, is by really embracing, like, wow, there's power in speaking truth, and sharing openly about the divorce. And when I say openly, I don't mean giving your children the details of what happened right in the relationship, or what happened outside with he did this, she did this, they did this, whatever, right? I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about evening the playing field, right? Where I was born in 76, and I feel like, the generation that I was raised with was very much like, you know, parents here, children here, or adults here, children here. Children should be seen and not heard, kind of thing. And adults know everything, don't ask me why, because I said so is why. That's like a really good example. I think divorce helps us kind of even that out, where we can be very open and vulnerable with our children and saying, look, I don't know. I don't have the answers. I don't have the answers to this. What I can share, this is like the parents talking to their children, what I can share is that, I feel, I know that this container of marriage, the relationship here, it isn't working, and it doesn't feel good. And it doesn't feel good for me. It doesn't feel good for your other parent. It doesn't feel good for you guys. And so we're shifting into another space, and we're doing it mindfully. We're doing it in the mediation space where we are empowered to have these conversations focused on you guys, the kids, and focused on the other stuff, and reach agreements that are good for us, good for us individually, good for us as a family, that feel good and that really help us to move forward and enjoy our lives together, while living, mom and dad, or dad and dad, or mom and mom, or whatever dynamic it is, are living in, most commonly different homes. And I think sharing that with our kids, the and sharing too, like the difficulty in sharing truth, like it's hard to share your truth. But when you do, it feels so good. It's one of the highest forms of self-love and self-respect you can give yourself. It feels good for the other person to hear the truth. When your kids can see that you and their other parent are working together in mediation as opposed to battling it out in court, that's another powerful narrative, and a teaching that you are providing to your children is, yeah, change happens, and It's one of the constant in life, and the sooner we embrace it, the better. But when you speak your truth and you make decisions and you have to go through hard things, the power in going through that with someone else and really navigating that together, as opposed to disempowering yourself by having your attorney speak for you and a judge make a decision for you. It's like teaching our children we can be empowered through these changes. We can be part of the solution. We can talk, we can share truth, we can recognize, that the way that we see the world isn't the way that other people see the world, and that is okay. There's so many really powerful narratives and kind of ways of being that you're teaching your children through divorce when it's done mindfully and with intentionality that really can empower our children. The next generation of children. When I think about, these kids who, and of course, this is so contrary to the programs. The programs are like children who are raised in households with parents that stay together are way more, better adjusted than any other kids. Children of divorce are criminals. They're sad, they're miserable. They're this, that, and the other. Um, and these really strong programs when it comes to children of divorce and how terrible it is for them. Which again, I think all of that is because for generations of time, millions of people have used this broken court system to go through their divorce, where it's just doesn't, it's fundamentally flawed. It just doesn't make any sense to me. That's a whole nother video. Um, but, this is a new way of looking at it. When we're looking at divorce being done mindfully, it makes me very excited for this new generation of children to be raised with parents that are like this, that are actually open and honest with their children about their life. And, I share with my kids all the time. I'm like, yes, I am your mom, and I'm so grateful you chose me to be your mom because I love you and I love being your mom, but I'm also all these other things, and I'm on my own journey of self and I have my own dreams and I'm working really hard to achieve all my dreams for me, of course, to live that and experience that in my life. But of course, any of us that have children, it's for them. I want to show my children, I want to teach my children, you can live your authentic truth. You can live your own unique path. Everyone is here for a different reason. All of us have a different life purpose. And I think when we go through the divorce mindfully and we're being very authentic and very real and very raw with everyone, in our sphere, in our world, including our children, well, now we're teaching our children the power of following their inner guidance and truth, and we're no longer living in a way where everything is separate outside of us. We're living in a way of, okay, let's shift it in. Let's really tune into what our inner guidance and truth is sharing. That is our path, is our next step forward. And let's trust that, and teaching our kids that and trusting that, yeah, of course, you have to have difficult conversations. And of course, you have, hard truths that come out. And when you speak your truth, sometimes you do have to go down a difficult path. And, all of that is okay because you are being guided somewhere. And it's trusting that inner guidance. It's having faith, it's having belief, and a knowing that you are being guided somewhere that's going to be amazing, and now instead of destroying children, instead of destroying people, going through a divorce, now we're shifting to a more mindful space of recognizing everything happens as it should, when it should. We are on this beautiful life journey. Everyone has their own life purpose and path. And that is part of the fun, of being here, is learning who we are, learning what magic and medicine we have to share with this world that will make other human life better, and really stepping into this space of doing that. It can be a really empowering, beautiful experience for your children and for you if it is done mindfully. And I am here to serve, I'm here to help. And so please reach out with any questions and enjoy the rest of the videos on Solace University. They are all for you and here to help you. I'm sending you much love.